Hey guys, what's up and welcome to the channel. I am the Shotgun Shogun and this one is going to be a little bit different. This is going to be a bit more of a podcast style. I have invited IWearClothes on because he invited me to his podcast, but the topic of today is going to be something that I have been seeing go around in my comment sections, Facebook groups, Reddit, Twitter. A lot of people have been asking me this in my streams as well. And I'm sure that you've probably seen the doomsayers that read the article about Nasu quitting after the end of Arc 2. Now, a lot of people are saying that the sky is falling, that once Nasu ends, Fate Grand Order is over as we know it. Or a lot of them don't actually read the interview and think that the game is over, period, which is not. It's just Nasu stepping down from writing the story and being heavily involved in Fate Grand Order. He's going to be moving on to other things. Now, they have stated that they will be continuing. They have put out job applications, not job applications. They put out a job for directors to come in. Now, the other thing too is in the past, I mean, they have other writers that work on things like events. They have people who help with the story, things like that. So we're going to be talking about, really what this means for Fate Grand Order in the future, and things like that, to try to dispel some of the myths and some of the doomsaying, skies falling stuff that I have seen across the Fate Grand Order community. Now, close. One of the big things that I think with this is that a lot of people put a lot of stock in Nasu stepping down, meaning that this is going to be the end of Fate Grand Order. And I think that one of the big things with that is this is like a dual, a double-sided sword here, because yes, it will be the end of Fate Grand Order as we know it, as the storyteller Nasu steps down. But one of the things too that me and you talked about a little bit earlier is this also opens up the opportunity for somebody who might have a different take on the Fate Grand Order world. And I want to get your opinion on that. What do you think about having some new blood, some fresh eyes actually take over and run with the story?
Right. So that would be pretty cool, because in the interview, which most people didn't read, obviously, Nasu mentions that I can't remember the name, but he has a few different writers, right, that have been working alongside him, and he mentions that when he ends it, he's open to the idea of alternate endings, right? So if someone were to take one of those, write one of those alternate endings themselves, right, and hopefully being a competent writer, they could definitely turn FGO into something good still. He mentioned he wanted to, make it final. He wanted to give it a sense of closure and a sense of loss, or like catharsis, right? So he can still do that, and he can be fulfilled as an artist and as a writer. But with the idea of alternate endings there, it can continue on indefinitely. And it can still be in competent hands, I think.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things too, is just because his story ends doesn't mean that we can't get something like a, oh, boom, here we got teleported, race shifted to an alternate timeline, and now this story happens. It's like pretty much any sort of anime, just because you end a story arc, even if that story arc has a very solid, definitive ending, that doesn't mean that those characters or new characters can't come in and take that place. So maybe we lose Best Kohai Mash, maybe Mash moves on, but now we get somebody else who comes in. It wouldn't be, you know, the first loss that we have. And one of the other things too is, you know, they have the money, and I can't imagine that they're going to be like, you know what? We should hire a writer that is just absolute trash to take over this giant mega game that is just such a cash cow that, you know, we're just gonna literally end the #1 selling gacha game in the world because, well, without Nasu, what are we gonna do? Let's just shutter this and call it a day. So I think that, you know, the other thing too is just because Nasu is not fully involved writing the story, being the guy at the helm, doesn't mean that he's not gonna somewhat stay involved. I can't imagine that, you know, if the story, you know, I can't imagine if somebody's writing a story, they're not going to be like, hey dude, so, you know, can you give this a read over? Like, give me your opinion. What do you think? Especially at the very beginning, as they transition over, he might take a step back and, you know, not be directly involved, but it's something that, you know, he has helped build. And as a creator, I know that if I built something but then I handed it over to somebody, I would 100%. Yeah, you would 100%.
Right, I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah,
just like how Dragon Ball right now isn't really in the hands of Akira Toriyama anymore, but he's still designing characters and making, you know, most of the main story still, even though he leaves the details to everyone else. Like I can't imagine as a writer, you know, especially when it's Fate, basically his life's work, that he would just be okay with like saying bye. Just, this is up to you guys now.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing stuff.
You know, and the other thing too with this is that this isn't necessarily a bad thing in my opinion, because if you think about it, this frees up Nasu's time to work on things like Tsukihime remix, you know, other things. Maybe when we get a new director, when we get a new story writer, maybe that will bring in the new blood that we need to see some of those crossovers, you know. We could see maybe a Melty Blood collab. We could see Case Files collab, with them really bringing a lot more stuff into the anime sphere as well. I feel like Fate Grand Order absolutely in the future has that opportunity to do more of these crossovers. Maybe they will, you know, bring more of the future story into the anime realm as well, because I mean, when we see, and we'll see how Camelot Babylonia do when those come out as anime, but that could absolutely be a thing, and that might be Nasu taking that step back and then, you know, overseeing a lot of that stuff. One of the other things too that I saw was that in that interview, or maybe a follow-up to that interview, I forget where I read it, but they stated that they have like at minimum like another 3 years of content like already. Like, they, even if they like shuttered today, there would be like 3 years worth of content.
Yeah, that was in there. They talked about how they have that the entire third arc completely planned out.
Yeah, so you know, even if Nasu just quit today, I mean, there's literally, you know, 3 years worth of content. And not only that, but I mean, like I said, with this being the #1 global earner, even if Nasu wanted to just go, you know what, hey, we're done, can we shut this down? Could you imagine the conversation that would have to be with Aniplex DW, where they're just like, bro, you're not serious, right? Like, you just want to quit? I'd be like, do you see this chart here where we're like like number one, and they're like, yeah, no, we want to quit. And they're like, yeah, I don't think so, man. Like, this is, we like money a lot.
And I think another thing that people kind of get wrong there is, like, without Nasu, it just can't continue, because they make the mistake of thinking FGO is his intellectual property, right? When it's not. I mean, he created Fate. You know, he's a pretty big shot when it comes to Fate, but you know, FGO isn't. He's not the say all end all, right? So it can keep going. And yeah, over $1 billion, right? Plural billions.
Yeah.
Of money. Number one in the world. If he's not going to say no, right, because he can't, I don't think anybody needs to be worrying, because people want to keep making that money.
Right. And you know, that's the other thing too, is he has handed off projects in the past as well. So I think that, like I said earlier, overall, I think that this is actually a good idea, because it frees him up to add his, you know, unique storytelling to other new things. Maybe we'll see a strange fake anime adaptation. Maybe, you know, he'll just come up with something completely brand new, and we'll just be like, boom, mind exploded. The other thing too that I saw was a lot of people were worried about, like, the degradation of quality for the story, for the events, stuff like that.
Right.
And
but going back to the alternate timeline thing, that you can still see it as being degraded. That's one easy way to avoid that, because he does want to give the players a sense of, you know, thank you for the great time. FGO is over, right? But look at Code Geass, right? It just came out with 3 recap / reimagining movies in an alternate timeline, and it's going to have a sequel that follows after the end of when Code Geass was supposed to end, like in the original timeline. But it's a different timeline, so it doesn't taint the original work, right? Like, I don't think we need to worry about the quality when we're always just going to have the original story.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing too is, I feel like that's almost doing a disservice to the new person that's coming in, because you're already assuming that that person is going to be bad. And right. You know,
there's some big shoes to fill, but that doesn't mean that it's extremely difficult for competent writers to do that.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, you know, people not giving, and I feel like that would be at the very beginning, people would be like, well, this isn't by Nasu, so I'm not even going to give it a chance. But there's going to be the vast majority of people will be fine with it. Now, transitioning this to one of the other things that we've talked about, and I've talked about a little bit on stream, is that this also lends the ability to catch North America and Korea and China and everybody else up to the JP version, because one of the big things with the doomsayers, the skies falling people that think that the game is actually shuttering, is if the game stopped today, because it is 2 years ahead of the North American version, which I play, if I knew that the game was stopping today, I would never spend another dime on it, because it has a shelf life. And that's one of the things that I tried to get across to people is, you know, they would never do that, because if they did, yeah, nobody in North America would be dumb enough to go, I'm going to wail on, you know, I'm going to NP5 Gramps because, you know, I need that and the game is going to end, but who cares? Now, I say nobody, but there will probably be some people that will do that. But that aside, this transition potentially has the chance for us to move back up, because maybe it's not as story driven, and, you know, we get caught up to JP this way. You know, everybody is on the same page, because if FGO is to ever end and any of the other servers are off time frame, then from a business standpoint, that would be a very, very weird position to be in.
Right. So, what would even happen to the English localization team? Would they even bother to continue making the game at that point?
Yeah, and that's one of the other things too, is like, why even continue to sink money into a game that everyone knows in 2 years is going to be over? Everyone would just move to a free to play, and there would be no point in doing any sort of promotion. There would be no point in doing events at anime conventions, because that's literally just money being thrown into the fire. So I think at some point the future of NA is that we are going to have to catch up. Now, whether that means skipping reruns, skipping, events, or literally just going, hey guys, sorry, we're going Korea speeds.
Here's a bunch of content all at once.
Yeah, here's a bunch of content all at once. The logistics of catching a 2-year-old game up with the current standing of the game is very logically tough, because if you're just like throwing banner after banner after banner, you're gonna have a lot of like dolphins, free to plays, like cheap to plays that are just gonna be like, bro, I cannot keep up with this. And with the fact that we never see anything a third or fourth rerun of a lot of these events with limited servants, stuff like that, it's real rough, limited welfare servants, and the whole like logistics around that would be real weird. So if they did shutter the game, I feel like it would just be like, well, that sucks. Sorry, NA, you didn't get to any of that story. If you want, hopefully somebody uploaded the cutscenes to YouTube. Take it easy.
And he translated them.
Yeah. Translated it, uploaded it to YouTube, because guess what? We lost our jobs as well. So I think a lot of people that just come out of nowhere and just read a headline and freak out are, really just kind of like, man, really, do you think that they're gonna do this? That doesn't even make even the most remote business sense whatsoever. But yeah, I think at some point though, that hard conversation of how do we catch up is going to be real tough, because Fate Grand Order is very, very heavily, it relies really heavily on the story itself, whereas other games like Azure Lane, Danmachi, some of these other games that get like a global version and then get caught up real quick by just literally skipping stuff because it doesn't matter.
Right, it's more about the girls in those games.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, Fate Grand Order is like, you've got very heavily story-driven events. You have story-driven, story chapters. Everything is about the story. It's really hard, and it's near impossible to actually skip any of that. And with as much time as you have to invest in the game, the prospect of catching up without going breakneck Korea speeds and potentially hamstringing your income from that server is really logistically tough, as somebody who, is pretty into business and marketing and stuff like that. It is a very precarious situation to be in without being able to just go, we're just going to give you this stuff early, and oh well. So yeah, that was a big thing too, that I was talking to with people on the stream and in comments and stuff like that. So, that
wouldn't be the worst thing for everyone, especially, content creators. There would be so much more to do.
Yeah, as it is, like the fact that, myself, as a content creator, I, spend a lot of time grinding on my account. And when I have, heavy grindy events and stuff where I have to let's take Christmas, for example, I just could not create any content. And because I'm, busy with the events, it's real tough actually as a Fate Grand Order content creator, because half of me wants to just take breaks and, make videos and stuff like that. But the other half of me is like, man, I've got all these servants that I have to level and it's half AP week. So I kind of need to utilize that. I actually like really chill events that, don't have like a good heart node or a page node or something like that. But when you've got events like, the Solomon event, Christmas unlimited events, stuff like that, it's real tough. But the other thing too is if they shuttered the game, then as a content creator, why would I continue to make anything for it? I would just move on to a game that I know has, a future, or, a new game or something like that. Because if you say, hey, this is the last day, this is the end of this game, you have a shelf life on that game. Now, one of the things that I think that they could do, and this is something that I was talking to somebody about, is if they ever tried to release a Fate Grand Order 2, this would actually be pretty beneficial, because in that interview too, they were talking about how there's a lot of things that they want to do, and there were some actually really interesting things that I was reading in there, combo Noble Phantasms. I think that would be so cool. Could you imagine a Kiyohime Lancer where she drops the bell on somebody and then coup alter at the same time? So you got the bell, you got the lances in there, and then coup alters just nope, and spikes from the outside, and
Iron Maiden style.
Yeah, exactly. I think that visually and even mechanically that would be amazing, because it's you could, and it would be really cool if they did something that it gave it extra effects, instead of just being it's more raw damage and it looks cooler, instead of something like that, it would be this adds this cool effect if these two are together. And obviously it would have to make sense from a story standpoint, but now you have a system in place that makes it so that if you have Servant A, the next time Servant B is on raid up, you're oh man, no, I've got to get Servant B, because this now makes my team, now this makes my team even more, amazing. And it also would open up a whole different world of strategy meta, because it's right now you just go with double Merlin Jalter, double Scotty Lancelot, double FGO, Tamamo Lee.
It would feel more fun
Schwen,
than just a meta game too, right? It wouldn't be about using what's best anymore. It would be about having fun, at least for every time they come out with new servants.
Yeah, exactly. And it would be really cool too, because you could do a lot more theory crafting, stuff like that, because now it's okay, well, in this one situation, using Sherlock Holmes plus Moriarty would do this thing, and you could tailor a lot more interesting boss mechanics where it's this boss has X, Y, or Z, but if you picked up any of these 5 servants, you're fine. But at the same time, if you didn't, we have them as a support that you can use or something along those lines. And I've noticed, I don't really keep up with JP that much, but there was one where I think Sigurd had to be used in order to finish off a servant, because it had infinite guts or something like that. I like interesting gimmicks like that. And that would make for more interesting storytelling as well, because it'd be like, oh, in the story you have to use X, Y, or Z servant. If you don't have them, we'll provide them for you, but this is key to the story. Because I mean, how many times have you been playing the story and you're like, man, Mash, get out of here, you're not even in my team, why are you in this cutscene? Like, can't I get Gilgamesh in this cutscene? You know, or something like that. And I think that having cool mechanics like that would be really neat. And the thing though with that is, if they made FGO 2, they would have to have a way where you could just transfer your current account to a new account with, you know, this new engine. Because yeah,
right.
when I was
do you think it would be a mobile game? Because like you're describing a lot of sick ass mechanics, right, that we don't really see in mobile games. It's kind of high effort for a mobile game.
But the thing is, though, is if you look, a lot of mobile games are actually really pushing the envelope of, you know, where things are going. I was on a podcast with Andraxis and Arc FGO not too long ago, and that's actually something that we were talking about, is where the next steps of mobile games are going. And because mobile games are very they're very accessible to people, because, you know, like Blizzard said, don't you guys have cell phones? You know, I think that we're gonna see a very big surge in the quality of mobile games, because you can take that literally anywhere with you. You can play it while you're on the train, you can play it while you're on the bus, you can play it in a taxi, you can play it between classes without having to, you know, bring your, you know, PS4, have to sit down at your computer, because it is so widely accessible. It makes for a platform, and with mobile devices being more powerful and stuff like that, I think that it will eventually work its way into having those capabilities. And I think when I was reading that, they said that it's not outside of the realm of possibility, but the framework that FGO was built on is pretty old now, and it's a lot of spaghetti code. So even if they wanted to put this new stuff in there, they're working on an older platform that has just code kind of thrown into it. So they would have to literally break everything down, start from scratch, and then build up from there. So, you know, it would definitely not be something until like the super far on future, but it would be really, really interesting to see that. But at the same time, if you go, hey guys, that all that money that you spent on Fate Grand Order, yeah, that sucks, it's gone. Oh well. I feel like there would need to be some sort of way, some mechanism to transfer that over to the new platform, the new game, and that would be a good way too to go, hey dudes, if you want to catch up, then, you know, fantastic. Maybe they could do a thing where they go, okay, cool guys, here's Fate Grand Order 2. For those of you who are on North America, you can play both accounts at the same time, and you can sync up anytime you want. We're gonna keep doing the story over here, so if you want to roll on those banners, fantastic. But everybody is going to be on the same page starting day one on Fate Grand Order 2. Now, people in JP, you know, Korea, who's ahead of us, China, who's ahead of us, they would have a bit of an advantage, but is it really an advantage in a single player game? Not really. And as you work your way through, you know, Fate Grand Order and then Fate Grand Order 2, you know, you could sync those. I don't know how they would do that, but it would be an interesting way to catch the global market up. Now you still have North America that might be rolling in Fate Grand Order 2, might be rolling in Fate Grand Order when those limited servants come up over there, and overall you have some more sinkage there. Just a thought. I'm not a dev, so I don't know the whole, nuts and bolts of that, but it would be an interesting idea, because I would like to see some of those, future, I would like to see them take advantage of that future platform ability.
Right. It seems like a kind of a weird timeline. I don't know. It's hard to predict what the response, from the global audience and from just NA would be like for that. There would be some people who would instantly just drop FGO 1. They wouldn't even bother, most likely. There would be so much happening.
Yeah.
It's just weird to think about. It sounds like a weird timeline.
Yeah, it does, but again, like logistically, it would be similar to the hurdle of catching North America up to JP. Like, you have to cram 2 years of content into somehow catching up, and I don't think that there is a good way to do that. Now, yeah, you definitely, if you released Fate Grand Order 2, you would have a lot of people that would just be like, guess I'm just gonna I'll transfer what I have, and then I'll drop Fate Grand Order,
yeah, I can see a lot of people doing that.
And at the same time, I mean, that's gonna just be people. There's gonna be a lot of people that do that. There's people now that drop Fate Grand Order North America to go to JP to start a fresh account, and they've missed out on a ton of stuff. But again, that's one of those things where if you start a game that is 2 years ahead, like I recently picked up Puzzles and Dragons. That game I think is like 6 years, has been out for 6 years or something along those lines, and I'm never going to be able to see that 6 years worth of content. So that's one of those things that you kind of have to deal with. Now, on the flip side, when we started on Fate Grand Order NA, that's like a brand new game to a lot of people, and to me as well. So not having that content would feel a little bit of like a slight, but it really depends. Like I said earlier, Fate Grand Order is very story driven, whereas like things like Danmachi, Azure Lane, Dragon Ball Z, Puzzles vs. Dragons, a lot of the other gacha games, is there really that much story that you can't get? Like, even in Azure Lane, yeah, there's a story, but you get it through events. So even if it's a little out of order, they're just like, here's your event storyline. So yeah, it would be interesting to see what the discussions around that are and what like the feasibility is, because I think that is part of the the struggle, is that whole, how do we cram 2 years worth of content without being without going breakneck speeds. Right.
So if we got FGO 2, if they were going to just make this second game instead of just continuing FGO the way it is with the alternate endings and whatnot, right? Do you think they would really even prioritize catching people up like that, or that they would even consider that? I feel like have they ever even said something about that?
No, I don't think that they've ever mentioned really FGO2.
Right, so,
now, one of the things in the interview, though, is that I believe Nasu said that he would like to work on, other games, stuff like that. So that's where I saw, a lot of the discussion around, well, maybe he's quitting Fate Grand Order to go work on, Fate Grand Order 2, or, just like a Type Moon gacha game in general, or a mobile game. I actually don't even think that it was, I don't even think that it was stated that it would be a mobile game. He just said, I believe he just said he wanted to just work on a game. So
right, he brought up like working on FGO gave him a sense of fulfillment, that he can do something that he's proud of that isn't just a visual novel.
Yeah.
So he also said it's the busiest time of his life right now.
Oh, I absolutely believe it.
And he wants to stay busy, right? So it's not like off the table that he would want to go do another game.
Right. Now, like I said, if it's in the mobile sphere, who knows? I actually think that like right now, going back to what we were saying is like the mobile gaming world is kind of that new, not really a new frontier, but it seems to be a bigger emerging sphere of gaming in general. There's not too many people that I know that are gamers that don't also play something on their phone. They might not play it as hardcore as like me or you play, Fate Grand Order or Azure Lane or something like that. But even the people that I know that will play like, MMOs for like 6 or 7 hours a night, usually they have something on their phone that they play as well, because as gamers, they're like, man, you know what, when I'm at work or when I'm doing, whatever while I'm out, I need something to play, whether it's like Clash of Clans or, like I said, Fate Grand Order or, any of those like smaller games. Like I feel like a lot of gamers are multi-platform. And this is something that I, talked about on one of my streams the other day, is that, when I first started making Fate Grand Order content, I looked at Twitch to see kind of whether it was worth it to like stream and make content on Twitch or if YouTube was the best place. And even at prime times, 8 p.m. Eastern, when, a lot of people are watching streamers or streaming, like I hardly ever saw anybody watching or playing Fate Grand Order. Now I tried a couple times to like stream during those times, and it's like I get some people that would come in and be like, holy crap, you're actually streaming Fate Grand Order NA, that's awesome. But even then you didn't really see a whole lot of people. I think the only person that I saw with like a big fan base was Living Ichigo, and that dude just plays every gacha game for the most part.
How long ago was this?
This was like a year plus ago. It was before I started my channel, so this was like near the beginning of Fate Grand Order. Well, actually, no, it was like a little bit after I started my channel, because I tried to start my channel and play like Ark and survival games. But that aside, that's a whole different thing. But the more that Fate Grand Order is getting out there, the more that gacha games are getting kind of prevalent in society, the more that I see people watching people stream mobile games in general. It's like, I mean, take X-Zero, that dude has, a ton of people watching him on the regular. Me and you have a pretty decent, viewer base. There's not really a time of the day where there's not people streaming or watching somebody play Fate Grand Order. And one of the other things too is a lot of people use streamers to see how they might like a new game. So if I go, hey guys, all right, you know what, I'm gonna try out Epic 7. People will watch me play Epic 7 to say, hey, so how do you like it? I'm digging like what you're doing on the screen, but that way they can test out the game to see how they like it before they put their money in or they download it or something along those lines. And I think that we're kind of on the cusp of it kind of working its way into more mainstream streaming. I mean, you've got people like Lost Paws, who streams Azure Lane, who's really big. You have Dyrus, who streams Azure Lane every so often. There's a lot of big people that are also kind of picking up on gacha game, mobile game streaming, and it's really interesting to see where it's going. So I think that, Nasu working on maybe another gacha game, them doing a Fate Grand Order 2 to, take number 1 and number 2 spots on the global earning boards might not be out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, but so for FGO 2 again, right? I don't think that's going to happen for a couple reasons. Because Nasu, well, it could, right, just without major Nasu involvement. But he said in the interview that he's afraid that once Part 3 ends, right, once he's done, that he's afraid that players will want to keep playing, and of course they will, right? Nobody's going to want to stop, especially people who've spent.
Right.
It makes me wonder if he realizes he basically helped create a lifestyle for some people, right? And like that game is part of them now. Like, on a
it
daily
absolutely.
basis.
I mean, it absolutely is. Like, until I started whaling, if I missed a day or missed spending some AP or something like that, it wasn't the biggest deal. But now that I'm super invested in the game, that goes back to where if they ever state, yep, we're turning off the lights, like, I would be kind of salty, but I would never spend another dime. That I would be like, that sucks. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people invest a lot of time and money into the game, so it would be real hard for them to stop. And that's one of the big things I try to tell people is like, dude, there's no way that they can shut the lights off. And the only way that I could see them transition to a Fate Grand Order 2, even if Nasu's not at the helm, would be that they would have to make some sort of way for you to transfer your account over to the new game. Because if they just go, yep, sorry guys, we're shutting the lights off, then I mean, I feel like a lot of people might not move over to a new game because they'll be like, oh, I'm feeling kind of salty because you guys just, sucks. Like, I lost a bunch of money and time investment in this other game that I played of yours, so I'm not gonna invest in this new one because you'll just do the same thing.
Right. It reminds me of this video I saw last year of this JP player, an Omega Whale, where he had like a video interview and he was talking about how much he loves the game and that he has spent like $80,000 on FGO.
Yeah, that guy. Oh man, you know what? I got real tilted at a lot of the comments in there though, because everyone was just like, huh, what a loser. He spent like 80 grand on this game. Man, get a life. Why don't you do something else? It's like, man, stop hating on a person for spending their money on stuff that they enjoy. Like, you bunch of salty, jealous kids that you can't, buy your own waifus. But, yeah, that's the thing is yeah, I mean, I'm not nearly on the level that dude is, but yeah, if they just shut the doors, I would be like, wow, man, I invested a lot of money in this game. And,
right. It's not like for some people, it's a lifestyle and an investment at this point.
Right.
It's just, what's that guy going to do? Right. He's just going to sit there like Pepe hands. Where's FGO 2?
Yeah. Like, feels bad, man. .jpeg.
Yeah. If we didn't get a FGO 2, what would happen? Like, what would happen to the community? Are we just going to another gacha game and forgetting about FGO, or are we gonna look at other Fate stuff?
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is like, I don't necessarily know that he would make another gacha game, but I mean, Aniplex DW does own a lot of other IPs, and I can definitely see them working, other gacha games. But what Nasu does, it will be really interesting. I do hope that he steps back, works on, revamping some older stuff or some more obscure stuff. The fact that they announced like the Case Files anime. I was just like, what? I don't even know too many people that even know what that is. So, that's really awesome that they are bringing a lot more of the obscure type Moon IPs, back out to the masses, because it's always interesting talking to people and seeing just how much of Type Moon they are even aware of, because there's just so much stuff. I've tried to do panels on this at conventions, and I'm like, oh man, I'll touch on, every Type Moon IP that's out there. And then I'm like, holy crap, this panel's going to be like 7 hours long, so you gotta.
That's another thing, right? Me and Caldea Gurus, when he was on my podcast, we were talking about all of the different things that the Lightworks can pull from in the Type Moon universe to make more FGO stuff, right? Like El Molloy Case Files.
Yeah.
They've never done anything with that.
What crossover I want to see more than anything in the world?
I want to see Witch on the Holy Night.
I want to see a Carnival Phantasm crossover.
Oh man.
Literally the best piece of media in the Type Moon art library. Not only that, but like one of the best openings. Like if you
I would just say it's the best opening we've had the pleasure of.
100%, dude. And it gets stuck in your head, and anybody who has ever seen it right now, it's in your head right now. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You're probably doing like the finger wiggle thing, and you're probably just gonna pause this podcast and go watch it real quick and then come back. I'll give you a minute. Okay, welcome back to the podcast. But it will be really interesting to see what the future holds under new writers, under new direction, stuff like that. Because going back to like the story, once Nasu steps down, once Fate Grand Order is done, and I put that in air quotes, it opens up the door for so much more stuff. It's like the shackles have been released because the story has
that's a really good way to look at it.
Ending.
Instead of like doomsaying, right, as you like to put it, saying that because Nasu's gone it's gonna dip, right? There's so many more possibilities now. It would be so easy to be like, hey guys, here's the Carnival Phantasm crossover event with a 4-star welfare Berserk car. Right?
Berserk car, yeah. That also has
and
a
we're
combo Noble Phantasm with Ilya.
Yeah. When we're thinking of this stuff is, it's not even our job to like make, FGO continue. And we already have ideas, right? The people whose job it is to do that, they've got this under control. Yeah.
By the way, Albert, if you guys are interested, you can contact me and IWearClothes about, job opportunities. Perfectly open to that.
Easy clap.
But we've been talking for a while. Anything that you would like to say as we close this out?
I'm just glad you gave me the opportunity to talk with you, man.
Yeah, no problem, dude. Actually, I want to thank you for having me on your podcast ever since like that one podcast. And then I followed up with the Andraxis Arc one. I was like, man, you know what? I've been talking about doing a podcast for a long time. A lot of people are like, yo, dude, you should do a podcast. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get around to it. But like after being on your stream, after being on your podcast, I was like, no, I really like this format. I like, just being able to talk to somebody about what's going on, and really, I mean, we've deviated a lot from where we were. We got into, Nasu leaving, the future of NA, the future of the game, other gacha games. Like it's been a trip, and I definitely appreciate you being on here. If anybody is interested, you can check out Clothes on Twitch. You can check out his YouTube channel. All of those links will be down in the description. Super cool dude.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, it interviews a bunch of other FGO YouTubers and Twitch streamers, and is pretty good at the game. So make sure you check him out. I'll be doing this with more people as topics come up. I don't know what the frequency is going to be. It's definitely it might be a every other week, might be a once a month, might be as I find topics or people asking me questions.
Need to find them. I think you're a natural at this. I come up with topics and stuff in advance, right, and go from there. I don't think you had to do that for this.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like literally I was just like, man, I want to talk about this. Hey, Clothes, can you jump on Discord in 45 minutes? Here's what we're going to be talking about. Hope you're ready, so no, it was really good though. I think that there's a lot of, like I said, doomsaying that needs to be kind of squashed. There's a lot of people that take some of these clickbaity articles out of context and don't really think about it logistically and stuff like that. But anyways, guys, we're gonna end this here, and again, thank you, Clothes, for joining. If you guys want to follow him, links are down in the description. And I will also link to a couple of articles, a couple good Reddit threads that go over a lot of the information that we talked about. And, I would like to thank all of the Patreons that help keep the channel up and running. There's links for that down there as well. But anyways, guys, I will catch you on the next one. Take it easy. Peace.